Be me, 34, vibing in my own downtown loft. Life's pretty damn good. Well, co-own with the bank for another 28 years, but still. Work as a senior communications manager for a mid-sized tech company. Spent the entire morning crafting the perfect email about why the new product launch needs more inclusive language. Nobody responded yet, but I know they read it. They always read my emails even when they pretend they don't. Get a call from Mom asking if I can stop by her place this weekend. Apparently my younger brother Jason is visiting and she wants the whole family together. Jason is 31 and still single, which honestly doesn't surprise me at all. Last time I saw him, he was going on about his job as some kind of engineer and I kind of tuned out. Men love to talk about their jobs, like anyone actually cares about circuit boards or whatever. Agree to come over because I haven't seen Mom in a while and I can bring that quinoa salad she pretends to like. Spend the rest of the week thinking about how I need to have a talk with Jason about his dating life. He's actually not a bad-looking guy and he has a decent job. The problem is probably his attitude toward women. Most men don't even realize how they come across. I've been single for about 3 years now after my last relationship ended. He said I was too much, which is just code for I can't handle a woman who knows her worth. Better to be alone than to compromise who I am for male comfort. Friday comes and I'm packing my overnight bag. Throw in my favorite book about workplace dynamics and power structures. Not that I'll need it, but I like having it with me. Drive to Mom's house, which is about 2 hours away in the suburbs. Pass by all these cookie-cutter houses with their perfect lawns and SUVs. Can't imagine living like that, so disconnected from culture and diversity. Arrive at Mom's and she's already got dinner started. Jason's car is in the driveway, some practical sedan that's probably great on gas or whatever men care about. Walk in and Mom immediately hugs me too tight. Jason is sitting at the kitchen table with his laptop. He closes it when I walk in and gives me a half wave. We do the awkward sibling hug thing. Notice he looks tired, like he's been working too hard. Typical man probably thinks his worth is tied to his productivity. Dinner is pleasant enough. Mom asks about my job. Tell her about the new initiative I'm spearheading about equitable communication practices. She nods, but I can tell she doesn't really get it. Jason is quiet, just eating his food. Mom asks him about his dating life and he kind of shrugs. Says he's been on some dates, but nothing serious. Mom does that concerned mother thing where she worries he'll never give her grandchildren. I jump in and say that's such an outdated expectation and he shouldn't feel pressured by heteronormative family structures. Mom gives me a look, but doesn't say anything. Jason actually smiles a little and says thanks. After dinner, Mom goes to bed early because she's tired. It's just me and Jason in the living room. I figure this is a good time to help him out with his dating situation. Ask him why he thinks he's single. He takes a long sip of his beer and says he's not really sure. Tells me dating apps are brutal. Says he gets maybe one match a week if he's lucky. When he does match, the conversations fizzle out quickly. When he does get dates, they rarely lead to second dates. I'm listening and already forming hypotheses in my mind. Ask him what his approach is. He says he tries to be respectful and interesting. Asks women about themselves, plans thoughtful dates, pays for dinner. This already sounds fine to me, so the problem must be something he's not seeing. Ask if I can look at his dating profile. He seems embarrassed but pulls out his phone. His main photo is him hiking, smiling genuinely at the camera. He looks approachable and healthy. Other photos show him with friends, at his sister's wedding, cooking dinner. No fish, no gym selfies, nothing overtly douchey. His bio talks about his job in general terms, mentions he likes cooking and hiking, wants something serious. This all seems perfectly adequate. So why isn't it working? Ask him to tell me about his recent dates. He describes going out with a woman named Melissa 2 weeks ago. They got coffee, talked for about an hour. He thought it went well, but she never responded to his follow-up message. Then there was Sarah the week before that. Dinner at a nice Italian place. Conversation seemed good. She texted him after saying she didn't feel a spark. And before that, Amanda, who seemed really interested initially. They were messaging for a week before meeting. First date was drinks and they talked for 3 hours. He asked her out again, and she said she was too busy with work. I'm hearing all this and thinking about all the emotional labor he's probably not doing. Ask him what kinds of questions he asks these women. He lists off normal stuff like their jobs, hobbies, where they grew up. Seems standard enough. Ask him if he talks about feelings and vulnerability. He looks confused and says it's usually first or second dates. Seems a bit heavy for that stage. Here's the problem, I think. Men don't know how to be emotionally available. Tell him that women want depth and authenticity. He nods but looks skeptical. Ask him what he's looking for in a partner. he says. Someone kind, intelligent, who takes care of themselves, shares some of his interests. Someone he can build a life with. This sounds reasonable, but also vague. Push him more on what he means by takes care of themselves. He seems uncomfortable, but says he means someone who has their life together and maintains their health. I can read between the lines here. This is about physical attraction and probably unrealistic beauty standards. Gently point out that maybe he's being too picky, that everyone has value beyond appearance. He gets a little defensive and says, of course he knows that. Says physical attraction is just one component and he's not even that picky about it. Claims he's attracted to lots of different types of people. Sure, I think, but probably all conventionally attractive. Tell him that maybe the women he's dating can sense that he's judging them. He looks genuinely confused by this. Says he's not judging anyone, he's just trying to find compatibility. We go back and forth for a bit. I'm trying to help him see his blind spots. He's getting more frustrated. Finally, he says something that surprises me. Asks me about my dating life. Tell him I've chosen to be single because I haven't found someone who meets my standards. He asks what my standards are. List them off. Someone emotionally intelligent, feminist, supportive of my career, shares household duties equally, good communicator, politically aware, financially stable but not obsessed with money, wants kids but would be an equal parent, health conscious, intellectually curious. He's quiet for a moment. Asks if I've dated anyone who met all those criteria. Admit that no one has met all of them, but I'm not willing to settle. He nods and says that makes sense. Then he says something that bothers me. Says maybe we're both in the same boat then. Both looking for something specific and not finding it. I immediately reject this comparison. My standards are about finding an equal partner. His standards, whether he admits it or not, are probably shaped by patriarchal ideas about women. Tell him this and he actually laughs. Not a mean laugh, but like he's genuinely amused. Asks me how I know that about him. Tell him it's just obvious from patterns I've observed in how men date. He says he's not men, he's just himself. This is such a typical response. Men always think they're exempt from systemic critique. Spend the next 20 minutes explaining to him about how individual men benefit from and perpetuate patriarchal structures, even when they don't intend to. He's listening, but I can tell he's not really getting it. Finally, he says he has to get some sleep because he's driving back early tomorrow. Feel like I didn't quite get through to him, but plant seeds, I guess. Go to bed in my childhood bedroom that mom has kept exactly the same. Lie awake thinking about Jason's situation. Wonder why dating has become so hard for everyone. Fall asleep eventually. Next morning, Jason is already packed and ready to go by the time I wake up. He's having coffee with mom in the kitchen. They're laughing about something. Feel a little left out, but whatever. Jason says goodbye and tells me it was good to see me. Says he'll think about what I said. Feel satisfied that maybe I helped him. He leaves and it's just me and mom. She asks me what Jason and I talked about last night. Tell her I was giving him some advice about dating. She gets this look on her face. Asks me if I think maybe I should focus on my own situation. This stings more than it should. Tell her my situation is fine, I'm choosing this. She says okay, but doesn't sound convinced. Spend the rest of the day with her and drive home Sunday evening. Back to my normal routine. Weeks go by, and I don't think much about that conversation. Then mom calls me about 2 months later. She's excited about something. Tells me Jason has a new girlfriend. Apparently they've been dating for about 6 weeks and it's going really well. He's bringing her to Christmas. Feel genuinely happy for him. Also curious about what changed. Ask mom if she knows how they met. She says on a dating app, same as all his other dates. Asks if I'm bringing anyone to Christmas. Tell her no, I'll be coming alone as usual. She does that sympathetic voice that makes me feel worse. Christmas comes around. Drive back to mom's house. Jason's car is already there with another car I don't recognize. Walk in with my bags and homemade vegan cookies that took me 4 hours to make. Jason is on the couch with a woman. She's pretty in a very conventional way. Long hair, makeup done carefully but to look natural, wearing a sweater that probably costs more than it looks. They both stand up when I come in. Jason introduces her as Christine. She shakes my hand with a firm grip and bright smile. Her energy is almost aggressive in its friendliness. We all sit down and mom brings out cheese and crackers. I'm asking Christine the normal questions. She's a physical therapist, has her own practice. She's 30, never been married, no kids. Loves hiking and cooking, same as Jason apparently. They met on the same app he'd been using all along. Ask her what made her swipe right on Jason. She says he seemed genuine and like he knew what he wanted. They talked for a few days before meeting for coffee. The coffee date went well, so they got dinner a few days later. Been together ever since. This all sounds exactly like the dates Jason described to me that didn't work out. Trying to figure out what's different. Christine is friendly, but there's something about her that seems calculated. Like she's performing the role of the perfect girlfriend. Throughout the weekend, I observe them together. She laughs at all his jokes, even the ones that aren't funny. She touches his arm constantly. She defers to him on decisions about small things, like what movie to watch. She compliments Mom's cooking effusively. She asks me about my job with what seems like genuine interest, but her eyes kind of glaze over when I explain it. Something about this feels off to me. On Christmas Eve after dinner, I end up alone in the kitchen with Christine. She's helping me wash dishes, even though I said I could do it. Ask her more about how she and Jason got together. She's surprisingly open. Says she'd been on the apps for about a year. Went on a lot of bad dates. Guys who just wanted hookups or who were emotionally unavailable. When she matched with Jason, she could tell he was different. Ask her how she could tell. She says his profile was clear about wanting a relationship. And when they talked, he asked real questions and seemed to actually listen. On their first date, he was nervous, which she found endearing. This still sounds like what Jason was doing before. Ask her directly what she thinks made it work with Jason when she'd had so many failed dates. She's quiet for a moment, rinsing a plate. Then she says something interesting. Says she'd done a lot of work on herself before meeting him. Had to let go of a lot of expectations and ideas about what a relationship should look like. Had to focus on how someone made her feel rather than checking boxes. This sounds like self-help book nonsense to me, but I'm curious, so I ask what she means. She says she used to have a whole list of requirements. Guy had to be over 6 feet tall, make over a certain amount, have a prestigious job, be super social and outgoing, have a perfect family, share all her political views. The list goes on. She never found anyone who met all the criteria. And the guys who met most of it turned out to be terrible in other ways. So she simplified it to, do I feel good around this person? Do they treat me well? Are we compatible in our life goals? Jason met those criteria easily. I'm listening, but also mentally noting that this sounds like settling. Ask her if she feels like she compromised. She looks at me with this knowing smile. Says no, she feels like she got realistic. Says the difference between compromise and realistic is that compromise feels like losing something. Realistic feels like gaining clarity. This seems like semantic games to me. But she seems happy, so who am I to judge? We finish the dishes and rejoin everyone. The rest of Christmas is fine. Jason and Christine are in their own bubble of new relationship energy. Mom is thrilled to see Jason happy. I feel like an observer to all of it. Drive home the day after Christmas. Can't stop thinking about what Christine said, about being realistic versus compromising. Whether there's actually a difference. Back at work in January, I'm in a meeting about the new diversity initiative. I've put together a comprehensive proposal. It includes mandatory training, hiring quotas, revised job descriptions, pay equity audits. I've worked on this for months. Present it to the leadership team. They nod along, but I can see them getting uncomfortable. The CEO thanks me for my work. Says they'll take it under consideration, which is corporate speak for no. After the meeting, my manager pulls me aside. Says the proposal is too aggressive, that we need to make changes incrementally. I argue that incremental change is how nothing ever changes. She says she understands my frustration, but this is the reality. There's that word again, reality. Like reality is just whatever the people in power say it is. Go back to my desk feeling deflated. Check my phone and see Jason posted a photo on social media. It's him and Christine on a hike, both smiling, mountains in the background. Caption is something cheesy about finding your person. Comments are full of congratulations and heart emojis. Feel a weird pang of something. Not quite jealousy, but adjacent to it. More like confusion about how he figured it out when I haven't. Later that week, I'm having lunch with my friend Rachel. She's one of the few people I can really talk to. Tell her about Jason and Christine. About how I don't understand what changed for him. Rachel listens and then asks if I've considered that maybe nothing changed for him. Maybe something changed in who he was meeting. This stops me mid-bite. Ask what she means. She says maybe Jason was always ready for a relationship. Maybe he just needed to meet someone who was equally ready. Someone who wasn't going to overthink it or sabotage it. Feel defensive and ask if she's saying the women he dated before were the problem. She says no, just that compatibility is complicated. Timing matters, mindset matters, what people are ready for matters. This conversation bothers me for days. Start thinking about my own dating history. The last guy I dated seriously was Sebastian. We met at a conference and hit it off immediately. He was smart, successful, seemed progressive. We dated for about 8 months. Things were good at first. Then I started noticing small things. He'd make plans without consulting me. He'd tune out when I talked about work. He expected me to handle all the emotional labor in the relationship. I tried to talk to him about it multiple times. He'd get defensive and say I was being too critical, say that he couldn't do anything right in my eyes. Eventually I ended it because I wasn't going to spend my life teaching a man how to be a decent partner. Before Sebastian, there was Devin. We dated for a few months. He was great on paper, but something was missing. He was almost too accommodating, would agree with everything I said, had no strong opinions of his own. It felt like dating a mirror that just reflected whatever I wanted. Got bored and ended it. Before that, a string of first and second dates that went nowhere. Guys who talked too much about themselves. Guys who were clearly just looking for something casual. Guys who seemed intimidated by my success. One guy who split the check to the penny and Venmo requested me for my half. One guy who spent the whole date on his phone. One guy who asked if I wanted kids on the first date and then seemed disappointed when I said maybe someday. So many failed connections. But I always attributed it to the men not being right. Never really considered whether I was bringing something to the table that wasn't working. This thought makes me uncomfortable. I'm in therapy the next week, my bi-weekly session. My therapist asks how I've been. Tell her about Jason and the weird feelings it brought up. She asks what specifically bothers me about it. Realize I'm bothered by the fact that he seems to have found something I can't find, despite the fact that I'm smarter, more self-aware, more intentional about everything. My therapist is quiet for a moment, then asks if I think maybe being more intentional is actually getting in my way. This seems contradictory. Ask her to explain. She says sometimes when we're too in our heads about something, we miss the organic development of connection. That relationships aren't projects to be managed, but experiences to be had. I argue that going in without intention is how people end up in bad relationships. She agrees, but says there's a balance. Need enough intention to know your deal breakers, but enough openness to let things unfold naturally. Ask her if she thinks I'm not open enough. She turns it back on me and asks what I think. Sit with this for the rest of the session. Leave feeling more confused than when I arrived. Over the next few months, Jason and Christine get more serious. They move in together in March. Mom is overjoyed and keeps hinting about weddings. I'm still single and increasingly aware of it. Not because I'm desperate to be in a relationship, but because I'm starting to wonder if I'm missing something fundamental. In April, I match with someone on an app. His name is David. He's a teacher. We message back and forth for a few days. He seems nice enough, witty, asks good questions. We agree to meet for drinks. I spend an hour getting ready. Choose an outfit that's attractive, but not trying too hard. Arrive at the bar 5 minutes late so I don't seem too eager. He's already there, waves me over. He's taller than I expected and has a nice smile. We order drinks and start talking. He asks about my job and I give him the overview. He seems genuinely interested. Asks follow-up questions that show he's actually listening. I ask about teaching and he lights up. Talks about his students with real affection. We move from work to hobbies to families to where we've traveled. Conversation flows easily. I'm mentally checking boxes. He's employed, intelligent, good conversationalist, seems emotionally stable. Then he mentions something about his roommate. Ask him about his living situation. Turns out he lives with 2 roommates to save money. He's 36 years old. Feel my interest deflate slightly. At 36, he should have his own place. This seems like a red flag about financial stability. Then he mentions he doesn't have a car, bikes everywhere or takes public transit. Another flag. I have my own car and my own place. Need a partner who's at the same life stage. Conversation continues, but I'm less engaged now. He doesn't seem to notice, or maybe he's just polite. After about an hour and a half, he suggests getting food. Make an excuse about having an early morning. He seems disappointed but understanding. We hug goodbye and he says he'd like to see me again. Say, yeah, maybe, in a non-committal way. Get in my car and immediately know I won't go out with him again. He texts me the next day saying he had a great time. I wait a day before responding with something vague. He asks if I want to get dinner sometime. I tell him I'm not feeling a romantic connection, but I wish him well. He responds graciously, feel relief, but also a twinge of something else. The something else is the thought that maybe I was too quick to write him off. But also I know what I want, and he wasn't it. A few weeks later, I'm at Mom's house for her birthday. Jason and Christine are there. They announce they're engaged. Mom cries happy tears. I hug them both and say congratulations. Mean it, but also feel that pang again. Later in the kitchen, Christine shows me the ring. It's beautiful, simple, elegant. She's giddy in a way I've never felt about anything. Asks if I'm seeing anyone. Tell her no, dating apps are rough. She sympathizes and says she knows how hard it is. Then she says something that catches me off guard. Says Jason told her about our conversation last year. About his dating struggles. Feel embarrassed that he shared that. She says she wanted to tell me something. That when she met Jason, she almost didn't go on the date. Ask her why. She says his profile mentioned he was an engineer, and she'd had bad experiences with engineer guys before. They tended to be socially awkward or condescending, but something made her give him a chance. Turned out he was nothing like her stereotypes. She says she's glad she didn't let her assumptions get in the way. This feels pointed, and I don't like it. Ask her what she means by that. She backpedals a little and says just that. It's easy to write people off for the wrong reasons. We're interrupted by Jason calling her back to the living room. Sit alone in the kitchen for a few minutes. Think about David the teacher. Wonder if I wrote him off for the wrong reasons. He didn't have his own place or car, but so what? He was kind and interesting and seemed to genuinely like me. Maybe those other things don't matter as much as I think they do. But also I can't just ignore what I need in a partner. Financial stability matters. Being at the same life stage matters. These aren't superficial requirements. Feel frustrated with myself for even questioning my judgment. Rejoin the family and try to be present. Drive home that night replaying everything in my head. Over the summer I go on a few more dates. None of them go anywhere. There's always something that's not quite right. One guy is perfect on paper, but we have no chemistry. One guy is attractive and fun, but makes a comment about feminism being overblown. One guy seems great until he mentions he's not sure he ever wants to get married. I'm clear that I want that eventually, so no point continuing. Each time I end things, I feel justified. But I'm also starting to feel tired. Tired of the process, tired of the disappointment, tired of explaining myself. In August, Mom calls to tell me Christine is asking about bridesmaids. Wants to know if I'd be willing to be one. Feel touched that she'd ask since we barely know each other. I agree, because it seems like the right thing to do. Wedding planning becomes a thing that's happening around me. Christine is organized and decisive. Knows exactly what she wants. The wedding is set for next spring. Everything is coming together easily for them. Meanwhile, I'm still going on dates that go nowhere. Start to wonder if there's something fundamentally wrong with me. This thought creeps in more and more. Maybe I'm too picky. Maybe I'm too difficult. Maybe I'm asking for too much. But then I push back against these thoughts. I'm not asking for too much. I'm asking for an equal partner. That should be the baseline, not some impossible standard. By fall, I'm feeling burnt out on dating. Delete the apps for a while. Focus on work and friends. Tell myself I'm taking a break to reset. Really, I'm just tired of the rejection. Tired of getting my hopes up. Tired of the emotional labor of constantly meeting new people. In October, there's a work event. Fancy fundraiser dinner for a nonprofit our company supports. I'm seated at a table with colleagues and some donors. One of the donors is a man named Andrew. He's probably mid-40s, silver hair, expensive suit, successful real estate developer. We end up talking during dinner. He's charming and attentive. Asks about my work with genuine curiosity. Tells me about his business. Mentions he's divorced, no kids. At the end of the night, he asks for my number. I give it to him, feeling a flutter of excitement. He texts me the next day asking me to dinner. We go out that weekend to an upscale restaurant. He orders wine without asking me what I want. This bothers me, but I don't say anything. Dinner conversation is fine. He talks a lot about his success, his properties, his deals, his important connections. Asks about me, but then redirects back to himself. I'm noticing these things, but also trying to be open. Maybe he's just nervous and overcompensating. He pays for dinner, which is nice. Walks me to my car and kisses me goodnight. It's a good kiss. We start seeing each other regularly. He takes me to nice places. Always pays, always plans everything. I should feel romanced, but instead I feel like a passenger. Bring this up to him after about a month. Say I'd like to be more involved in planning our dates. He seems confused and says he's just trying to treat me well. Tell him I appreciate it, but I also want equal input. He says, of course, and that I should plan the next date. Feel satisfied that we communicated. Plan a date to this art exhibit I've been wanting to see. Then dinner at a place that has great vegetarian options. When I tell him the plan, he seems less enthusiastic. Says art isn't really his thing, but he'll go. The night of the date, he shows up 15 minutes late. Rushes through the exhibit, clearly bored. At dinner, he makes a comment about how we could have just gotten steak somewhere. I'm annoyed, but try to hide it. This continues for another month. We're in a relationship, I guess. But it doesn't feel like partnership. Feels like we're just going through motions. He never asks deep questions. Never seems interested in my thoughts on anything substantial. Wants to be physically intimate, but emotionally distant. I bring this up, and he says I'm overthinking things. Says we're good together and I should just enjoy it. This makes me feel crazy. Like my needs are unreasonable. Talk to Rachel about it. She asks me why I'm still seeing him. Realize I don't have a good answer. Maybe because he's available and interested. Maybe because I'm tired of being alone. Maybe because I thought I should give it a real chance. But I'm not happy. End things with Andrew after about 3 months. He seems more relieved than upset. Probably wasn't getting what he wanted either. Back to being single. Back to feeling like I'm the only one who can't figure this out. Christmas comes around again. Jason and Christine are disgustingly happy. They're planning the wedding for April. Talk about their future with such certainty. House, kids, growing old together. They make it sound simple. I'm sitting there wondering what they know that I don't. After dinner, I end up talking to Jason alone. Ask him directly what changed between last year when he was struggling and now. He thinks for a long moment. Says honestly, nothing changed with him. He was the same person on the dates that didn't work out. Christine was just ready for the same thing at the same time. Ask him how he knew she was different. He says he didn't at first. She was just another date. But she was easy to be around. She didn't play games or test him. She was clear about what she wanted. She appreciated his efforts instead of criticizing them. This last part feels pointed. Ask him if he's saying the women he dated before were critical. He says not all of them, but some. Says some women seem to be looking for reasons it wouldn't work, instead of reasons it would. Feel defensive and ask if he's talking about me. He looks uncomfortable but says maybe a little. Says when we talked last year, I seemed more focused on what was wrong with his approach than what was right about it. This hits differently than I expect. Ask him what he means. He says I was looking for problems to fix, trying to explain his struggles through the lens of what he must be doing wrong, when really he wasn't doing anything wrong, just hadn't met the right person yet. Sit with this. Ask if he thinks I'm too critical. He's quiet and then says he thinks I have very high standards, which isn't bad, but maybe sometimes I'm judging situations before giving them a chance to develop. Feel hurt but also curious. Ask for an example. He mentions that guy I told him about, David, the teacher. I mentioned David in passing at some family dinner months ago. Apparently Jason remembered. Says I wrote him off because of his living situation. But that seemed superficial compared to the connection we had. Try to argue that it's not superficial. Financial compatibility matters. Jason agrees, but says David had a job and was financially stable. He just chose to save money by having roommates. That's actually responsible, not a red flag. Don't have a good counter to this. He says he's not trying to criticize me, just offering perspective. Says Christine could have written him off for a dozen reasons. He's not the tallest guy, he's not the most outgoing, he's close with his family, which some women find weird. But she didn't focus on any of that. She focused on how he treated her and how they felt together. Everything else was negotiable. We sit in silence for a bit. Finally ask him if he thinks I'm going to end up alone. He looks genuinely sad and says no. Says I'm smart and successful and have a lot to offer. But I might need to figure out what really matters versus what I think should matter. This conversation haunts me for weeks. Keep replaying it in my mind. Start thinking about all my failed dates and relationships differently. Wondering how many of them I sabotaged with my own expectations. But also pushing back against that idea. My expectations aren't unreasonable. I deserve a partner who meets my needs. Going into the new year, I make a resolution to be more open. Re-download the apps. Try to swipe right on people I might have passed before. Match with a few guys. Go on some dates. Still nothing clicks. But I'm trying to be less critical. Trying to focus on the positive. One guy is 15 minutes late and I don't write him off immediately. Turns out traffic was bad and he's actually very punctual normally. We have a nice enough time, but no spark. Another guy lives with his parents while saving for a house. I go on a second date instead of ending it after the first. He's sweet, but we have nothing in common. End it after the third date. I'm trying, but it's still not working. Start to feel hopeless again. Maybe the problem really is me. Not my standards, but something else. Something fundamental about my ability to connect. In February, I have a session with my therapist where I break down. Tell her I don't understand why this is so hard. Why everyone else seems to figure it out except me. She asks if I really think everyone else has it figured out. Point out that Jason did. He was struggling, and then he wasn't. She asks what I think made the difference for him. Repeat what he said about meeting someone who is ready. She asks if I think I'm ready. Immediately say yes. She sits with that, and then asks what being ready means to me. Realize I don't actually know. Thought it meant knowing what I want. Having my life together. Being emotionally available. She says those things are all important. But being ready also means being willing to be vulnerable. Being willing to let someone in. Being willing to accept someone as they are rather than as I want them to be. This makes me uncomfortable. Ask if she's saying I need to lower my standards. She says no. Says there's a difference between standards and rigidity. Standards are about core values and needs. Rigidity is about controlling outcomes. Asks if I can tell the difference in my own dating life. I have to admit I'm not sure. She gives me homework to think about my actual deal breakers. Not preferences, but true deal breakers. Things I absolutely cannot accept in a partner. Spend the next week thinking about this. Make a list. True deal breakers. Someone who doesn't respect me. Someone who is abusive or controlling. Someone who doesn't want commitment. Someone with addiction issues. Someone who doesn't want kids when I do, or vice versa. The list is shorter than I expected. Then make another list of preferences. Things I want but could potentially be flexible on. This list is much longer. Includes things like, has their own place, makes above a certain income, is over a certain height, shares all my political views, has a prestigious job, is extremely social, has a specific body type. Looking at these two lists side by side is revealing. Most of the reasons I've ended things with people are from the preference list, not the deal breaker list. This is uncomfortable to realize. Bring it to my next therapy session. My therapist asks how it feels to see this. Say it makes me feel like I've been getting in my own way. But also defensive because preferences matter too. She agrees they do, but asks if I'm willing to hold preferences loosely. To let someone surprise me, to discover what actually matters in practice versus in theory. Say I'll try. The wedding is in April. It's beautiful and simple. Christine looks radiant. Jason looks happier than I've ever seen him. They exchange vows they wrote themselves. Promise to choose each other every day. To build a life based on respect and partnership. I'm crying and not entirely sure why. At the reception, I'm seated with some of Christine's friends. They're all nice and friendly. One of them asks if I'm seeing anyone. Say no and expect the usual pity. But she just nods and says the right person will come along. Asks what I like to do for fun. We end up having a great conversation about books. She recommends some titles I've never heard of. Feel lighter than I have in months. Later in the night, I'm at the bar getting a drink. A man approaches and introduces himself as Christine's cousin. His name is Marcus. We start talking. He's funny and easy to talk to. Has his own business doing something with graphic design. Asks about my job and seems genuinely interested. We talk for probably an hour. He asks for my number. I give it to him. He texts me the next day. We make plans for coffee that week. Sitting across from him at the coffee shop, I'm nervous. Trying not to analyze everything. Trying to just be present. He asks about my family, and I tell him about Jason. He shares about his family. He's close with his siblings and parents. Has never been married, but was in a long relationship that ended 2 years ago. They wanted different things. He wants kids eventually, wants to get married. But he's not in a rush. Wants to find the right person. We talk about travel and food and our jobs. Conversation flows naturally. I'm having a good time. Not mentally checking boxes. Just enjoying the connection. We go on a second date. Then a third. He's different from guys I usually date. More laid back, less ambitious in the traditional sense. His business is small and he likes it that way. Has time for life outside of work. This would have been a red flag before. Now I'm trying to see it as just a different approach. We've been seeing each other for about a month when he invites me to his place. He lives in a small house that he owns. It's modest, but well-maintained. He cooks me dinner. We talk and laugh. He asks me what I'm looking for in a relationship. Take a deep breath and try to be honest. Say I want partnership and respect and someone who communicates. Someone who wants to build a life together. He nods and says that sounds good to him. Asks if I think we could have that together. This is moving fast but also feels right. Say I think maybe we could. We keep seeing each other. Things are good. Not perfect, but good. He has quirks that annoy me sometimes. He's messy and sometimes flaky about plans, but he's kind and thoughtful. He listens when I talk. He makes me laugh. He's interested in my work even when he doesn't totally understand it. We have disagreements sometimes. He's not as politically engaged as I'd like. Doesn't always understand why I'm upset about workplace dynamics or social issues. But he tries to understand. Asks questions instead of dismissing me. This is new for me. Being with someone who isn't perfect but is trying. One night about 3 months in, we're having dinner. I mentioned something about my job. A frustrating meeting where my ideas were dismissed. Expect him to sympathize. Instead, he asks if maybe I came on too strong. Feel immediately defensive. Ask what he means. He says, sometimes when I'm passionate about something, I can be pretty intense, which is great, but can also be overwhelming for people. I'm hurt and angry. Tell him he sounds like every man who's ever told me I'm too much. He looks surprised and says that's not what he meant. Says my intensity is one of the things he likes about me. But I asked him why he thought the meeting went badly, and he was being honest. We sit in tense silence. Finally, I ask if he thinks I'm too intense. He says sometimes yes, but not in a bad way. In a way that shows I care deeply about things. Says the question is whether I want people to hear me or just want to be right. This stops me. Ask what the difference is. He says if I want people to hear me, I might need to adjust my delivery. Meet them where they are. If I just want to be right, then keep doing what I'm doing. But don't be surprised when it doesn't work. This is hard to hear. But it's also honest in a way no one has been with me before. Sit with it for a few days. Realize he might have a point. Start to notice my own patterns. How I come into conversations with conclusions already formed. How I don't leave much room for other perspectives. How I can be dismissive of views I don't agree with. This is a hard thing to see about myself, but also clarifying. Marcus and I keep dating. It's not always easy. We challenge each other. But we're building something. 6 months in, I'm visiting Mom. Jason and Christine are there. They just found out they're pregnant. Everyone is overjoyed. Later, Jason asks how things are going with Marcus. Tell him they're good. Say, I think I'm starting to understand what he meant last year. About focusing on what's right instead of what's wrong. He smiles and says he's glad. Asks what changed. Tell him I'm not entirely sure. Maybe I just met someone I was willing to be challenged by. Someone who made it worth examining my own stuff. Jason says that's what Christine did for him too. Made him want to be better. Not because he wasn't good enough, but because he wanted to show up fully. We sit there in comfortable silence. Feel something shift in me. A letting go of the need to be right all the time. A acceptance that maybe I don't have it all figured out. Maybe nobody does. We're all just trying our best with the information we have. Later that night, I call Marcus. Tell him I love him for the first time. He says it back. Says he's been waiting to hear me say it. We talk about the future. It's scary and uncertain, but it's also exciting. He's not perfect. I'm not perfect. But we're choosing each other anyway. Choosing to build something together. Lying in bed that night, I think about all the years I spent certain I knew exactly what I needed. How that certainty kept me isolated. Kept me from real connection. I still have my values and my standards, but I'm holding them differently now. Less like a checklist and more like a compass, pointing me toward what matters, but leaving room for the journey to unfold. Jason was right. Sometimes we're so focused on finding what's wrong that we miss what's right. Sometimes the problem isn't everyone else. Sometimes it's our own inability to see beyond our expectations. This doesn't mean settling. Means being open. Means being willing to be surprised. Means accepting that love isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone worth doing the imperfect work with. And maybe that's what I've been missing all along.